Long ago, at the height of the golden age of piracy, the infamous pirate Ramses and his shipmates sacrificed everything to embark on an impossible journey into the Sea of Thieves. In the present day, Lorena, an ambitious stowaway, determined to leave her mark on history, joins forces with the wild, adventurous captain, seeking the greatest treasure ever buried. Separated by time, but united by their drive to uncover the secrets of the Sea of Thieves, both crews face tricks, traps, and malevolent creatures as they draw ever nearer to Athena's fortune. Take a deep breath and dive into the epic story based on Rare's thrilling share world adventure game, Sea of Thieves, where aspiring pirates can set sail on an exciting voyages, discover the tales of famously fearsome pirates whose legends endure and whose plunder still lies buried, ready for the taking. Sea of Thieves, Athena's Fortune. Written by Chris Alcock. Narrated by Toby Stevens. Hello, and welcome back to another exciting audiobook review. I am doing something a bit different this month. We actually have a theme going this month, Pirate Month, and I am reviewing an audiobook of Sea of Thieves, Athena's Fortune. I recently got into playing Sea of Thieves, and I will be doing a review on that sometime in the very near future, probably before the end of the month. I am getting over a cold. You could probably hear it, but I'm sorry I had to get these videos out for you guys. So I'm going to push through, even though I'm not at my best. So please bear with me, and thank you so much. If this is your first time here, hopefully you'll see my determination to get the videos out for you guys, and maybe that'll be enough to convince you to subscribe and check out more of these reviews. Normally, I only do reviews of self-published authors, but I don't have a lot in the way of that right now. I only got like a couple left, and I'm kind of spreading them out. So, I decided, you know what, heck, this is Pirate Month. I'm going to do one that's not a self-published author. So here we go. Did I overall like the book? If you haven't checked it out, if you're a fan of the game, I definitely think you'll like this. Even if you're not a fan of playing the game, or you don't like to play games at all, if you like adventure stories that deal with pirates, then yeah, definitely consider checking this out. This will probably be something you'll enjoy. So, with that said, those of you who have not read the book, you might want to stop the video here. Go check this out for yourself on Amazon or Audible. It's actually not that expensive. So, and if you really want to save money, you don't want to, the company that makes the game actually has the entire audiobook on YouTube. So I'll probably put a link to that in the description box if you want to go listen to that and then come back and see my review of it. With that said, let's jump into the in-depth review now. Also, quick disclaimer, I do hold professional audiobooks to a much higher standard than I do self-published authors, because self-published authors, they don't have an entire company, an entire team to do the research for them, to do the marketing, and to do the covers and everything. They don't have that. So with professionals, I do hold them to a much higher standard. Even if it's their first venture into the audiobook or book writing process, they still got a major company to support them. So here we go. All right. So starting with the cover and title, I'm going to give the cover and title 5 stars. I'm not too crazy about the audiobook cover being all purple, but at least the characters kind of look like the characters from the game. However, on the paperback cover, one of the characters doesn't look anything like his game counterpart, and I have never seen the skeleton yet, but Lorena actually looked very close to her game counterpart. I do like the coloring on this more than the just plain purple overlay on the audiobook cover, although the audiobook cover has better drawn characters and stuff. The title, of course, you're going to call it Sea of Thieves, because that's the name of the game. Athena's Fortune, it works. Yeah, you kind of have to read the book, because I kept wondering why it was called Athena's Fortune, and you kind of just have to read the book to find out. So I can't exactly tell you anything about that. So, moving on to writing. And for the writing, I don't know. I'm going to give this 4 stars, because I'm not really huge on stories where it's split up by, the characters. And some of it was just way too predictable. Like, you knew, oh, okay, that's going to happen. Okay, that's going to happen. Not because you played the game, but because these are common story threads that happen all the time. But other than that, other than some predictableness to it, some cliches that are laid here, it was still a good story. I mean, it's still really written well. So moving on to narration. And for narration, I'm going to give it 5 stars. The narrator did a wonderful job. Nothing, spectacularly special. He did do pretty good on doing different voices. But, he read everything crystal clear, and you had a good intel who the characters were. So yeah, 5 stars here. Now moving on to the story. Like I said earlier, I'm not really a huge fan of 2 stories flowing at the same time, even if they do ultimately kind of come together. Probably the only exception I have for something like that, I would have to say, is It. But I'm going to give the story 4 stars as well. It's not it's not like it really goes all out and does anything grand and new, but it is a good story. And it gets where it has to go, even if some of it is predictable. Although I think some things could have been fleshed out just a bit more, and it could have been just a little bit longer. But at no time was, definitely more interested in the Lorena storyline than I was with Ramsey's storyline. So that could be a factor too. And finally, moving on to characters, I'm going to give the characters 5 stars because, for the most part, the characters were done really well. Um, like I said, with the story part, that's why I didn't count it against here. There was one character I was kind of like, oh, I wish we had a little bit more of why he's this way. Um, what, just, I mean, it was brought up at the beginning when the character did this one thing, and then it's like, okay, so why is he doing this? What did the captain do so bad that is making this guy turn on his captain? And I don't really think we get much of that until later towards the end. That doesn't even get like revisited. Of course, some predictable things with characters happen, but I added that to the story part already. So, but the characters themselves were really good. I really enjoyed all the characters. And yeah. Now moving on to the extras. And we actually did get some extras in this audiobook. They use music from the game, they use sound effects from the game, which really helped to bring the game, the story, the audiobook to life. So people who are fans of the game will recognize the music. They will recognize the sounds in the background. And the sounds aren't played too heavily, and they're not out of place. Like, you really feel. I mean, there might have been 1 or 2 times, like, you hear a digging sound, and he's finishing up a sentence from a previous sentence when the digging sound starts, and then he mentions that they start digging, and then as soon as he says it, that's when they stop digging after he says it. So, there was maybe 1 or 2 times like that, but just the addition of the sounds was wonderful. Really brought the audiobook to life. So with all that said, let's move on to the final score. And the final score I'm going to give Sea of Thieves, Athena's Fortune, is a 9 out of 10. It's not the greatest by far, but it is a really good story. It's a little shorter, but I still really, really enjoyed it. And maybe that's because I'm brand new to the game. But it's only about 10.5 hours long. You do kind of have to sit through the 2 adjoining storylines, but the problem for me at least is you got to bounce back and forth. Honestly, you could listen to the entire Ramsey's part and then go back through and listen to the Lorena part, but when it gets to certain spots with Lorena, you're already going to know what's coming because that's what they try to do. They try to split it up so that way one thing is happening and then when it's revealed in the next chapter what became of that. Like they talk about merchants, coming to the Sea of Thieves, setting up shop. And then in the next chapter, you have Lorena visiting the first outpost to ever be erected in the Sea of Thieves. And you're like, oh, okay. So it's stuff like that. And it helps just to push that divide of, the 2 timelines, which do end up meeting kinda. It's not time travel, but there's a way it kind of comes together at the end. So, like I said at the beginning, whether you're a fan of this or not, whether you play the game or not, I definitely think you would enjoy this audiobook. Like I said, You can check it out for yourself on Audible and Amazon. The paperback is like less than $13 if you want to buy a paperback copy, if you enjoy actual physically reading. Or there's a playlist of the entire audiobook on YouTube. So I really am looking forward and hoping that they will do the same thing with they have another book, but I don't think they have it in audiobook form. So I'm really hoping they do that. I'd love to get more of these audiobooks to hear more of this lore. It really does help break out some of the stuff in the game. So this has been my review of Sea of Thieves, Athena's Fortune. If you have not, please consider subscribing, checking out the rest of the books on audiobook reviews on this channel. I have a lot of different content. We are finally over. I know we keep saying it. We've finally made it over the 100 subscriber mark and on our way up to the next benchmark. So I want to thank you all so much for watching, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye.